Hello, my beautiful IT people. Andy's here, and this is InfoTek channel. You see, in my blog, we talked a lot about getting a job in IT and how you need to attend courses or have a diploma or have a work-related experience or enroll in a certification program, etc. However, it's all worthless if you're not prepared for the actual interviews when you enter job market. Today, we'll talk about one question that covers a lot of bases and is a good place to start from when you practice your mock interviews at home. Now, the question is, tell me about yourself question. You want to be prepared to answer this tell me about yourself question properly? Let's discuss important bullet points. We will cover A, why this is so important to practice this tell me about yourself question in your mock interviews. B, why employers ask this question anyways. C, what they expect to hear from you. And finally, D, how you answer this question. Now back to bullet point number 1. Why this is so important to include this tell me about yourself question routine in your mock interviews. Well, first of all, it will be asked on all stages throughout your interview process when you are on job market. Recruiters ask this question, right? They're trying to get familiar with you, basically to get the feeling if you are a person that's easy to work with, right? What kind of experience you have, if you were able to work with bigger teams, smaller team, right? What kind of team experience you had in project number 1, project number 2, project number 3, and so on, right? Then follow-up interviews, something like phone call, right, with company engineers, for example. Again, as soon as a new person joins the call, the team lead would say something like, Andrew, so we have new guys on the call online. Can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your most recent project? Right? So new people want to hear it again. So be ready to repeat yourself again and again. Have short answer and long answer. Gauge the interaction. Try to lead interaction. Avoid talking on one breath for a long time, right? In my early years when I just started and my first job market was an awful experience because I was trying to talk nonstop, trying to impress them and sell myself to the company, right? But when you talk yourself for a long period of time, you run out of air and basically you cannot breathe when you talk. You see, and it makes you anxious and not certain of what to do next, right? And you just lose your thought. So avoid that at all costs. Just interact, ask questions back, all right? Try to engage them into a conversation and always drag them into your territory. Talk about stuff that you are familiar with. You are asked some follow-up question on your tell me about yourself and you don't know exactly how to answer or you're not familiar with the tool, for instance, right? Don't say, I don't know, or I don't have experience with that. Just say, well, I'm not too familiar with this, but my experience lies with this and these tools. I've been using in ETL, like different tools, for example, right? And I've been extracting data from a source and I've been transforming it in this and this way and then loading data to the target database. And database was MySQL or Oracle or whatever, right? So talk about stuff you know and always bring them into your territory. The second one, employers ask this question. Again, they are getting a feel, right? Mostly they want to know if you are a person that is easy to work with, all right? They want to see if you are a conflicting person. If you have experience working with a small team or big team, right? Because in your answer, when you answer, tell me about yourself, you say, my first project was a small team with only 3 people, like 1 DBA, 2 developers, right, and a manager. And I've been more or less independent and I could like show that I own the project, right? No one was like pretty much supervising me. And then you say, in my second project, I worked as a part of a huge team with site leads, team leads, multiple managers, right? A lot of pressure. So I was able to work under pressure and with strict deadlines, right? And a lot of supervision. So you show that you can work unsupervised, and you can actually work under stress and within a big team too, right? So that's what they're trying to gauge. Give them answer that goes from big picture to smaller picture, and they just want a feel of who you are as a person. Not as much technically, right? But as a person. Because at the end of the day, you work with a person, with a human being, all right? They want to see that you are a normal human being. You're not conflicting, you're not gonna start rumbling with managers or have disagreements with other engineers or tell your site lead that you know your job better than him or her, and that's why the whole company needs to go your way, right? So they want to have a sense of what kind of person you are. In your answers, you should show that you are an easy to work with human, all right? Technical stuff, they can teach you, but if you lack interpersonal, interrelationship skills within the team, it cannot be taught. If you are conflicting by nature, they cannot change it. So they will avoid that at all costs. All right. They are willing to teach you if you are a person that is chill, right? Positive, interacts with other people well, okay? Well phrased, well mannered. That's what matters most. Now, what they expect to hear from you when you answer this "tell me about yourself" question. That is simple. They just want to hear that you are willing to learn, that you are reliable, that you're not afraid of working under pressure, of having deadlines, right? That you are responsible. So very basic stuff. But don't just say, "I'm responsible, I'm reliable. Just hire me and you will not regret." That's stupid. It's only in Hollywood movies, you know? Basically, it should be in your answer. So you say, "In my previous project, I was asked to learn an unfamiliar database engine. I've always been working with SQL Server, but then all of a sudden, our team lost Postgres DBA, and they needed some help with the roles and users, right? Managing users in that Postgres database. And it was in the cloud, again, unfamiliar territory. But I owned that project and I nailed it, all right? I removed unwanted users, and it took me some learning curve, right? I've been studying, I've been researching, I found a way to make it work, all right? That's what they want to hear. So in your answer, it will be that, first of all, you're not afraid to work, right? You can work with unexpected requirements, all right? With something that requires you to research and study, right? And you can still make it work. It's just in your answer, it should be, you did not ask for help, all right? You researched on your own, all right? You owned this issue, you owned this project, and you brought it to resolution through hard work. That's how you frame your answer. And finally, how to answer this question. In general, be relaxed and affirmative. Be sure of yourself when you speak. All right, speak loudly, speak calmly. Ask questions back. All right, create interaction instead of interrogation, where you constantly answer questions. As an example, they ask you, what kind of salary do you expect to make, right, if you get hired? You can say, well, in my previous job, I've been making, let's say, 100K a year plus benefits on W2. And then instantly ask a question, how much your company is offering? All right, now you make them respond. And that's how you create interaction. You ask you about tools, let's say ETL, extract, transform, and load data, right, tools. And you say, I'm familiar with this and this. If I get hired, do I work with the same tools, or you have something else, like maybe you work with Ansible Towers or you work with GitHub, right? Ask questions back and you will create interaction. That is extremely important. I personally have been interviewing people when I've been working with Amazon Web Services, cloud support engineer. And I remember that people who impressed me most when I interviewed them were the ones that stayed calm and didn't talk much. All right, don't try to over talk them. Give them a short answer but on point. Listen to them. All right, gauge the interaction. See if they are interested in more information or less. If you see a bored look, right, or they just wait until you finish, do not try to continue talking for 5 minutes. All right, stop somewhere with the bullet point, right, of your experience, and then listen to the next question. On the other hand, let's say you gave them short answer, right? Big picture answer. And after you stopped talking, they intently listened to you, right? On the phone or in person, it doesn't matter. If you feel like they want more, simply get back to your initial response and give them more detailed answer. Now, after we covered basics, let me give you just a couple of suggestions. It's like basic suggestion for going to any IT related interview or any interview whatsoever. Number one would be listen to the interviewer. All right, do not be in a hurry to start answering. Always try to understand the question first. Again, in my experience, when I interview people, I see in a lot of cases that a pretty much smart guy just gives me whatever answer, all right, whatever, just to talk it over, right? They just want to talk without giving me the substance. That basically annoys the interviewer, all right? Listen, and if you didn't understand it 100%, ask follow-up questions. For example, they say, how do you install SQL Server on Windows, right? Don't just start answering. So I go to a media device, to a media disk or hard drive, and I download it locally, and then I unzip, and then installation wizard appears, and then I put local host, and I work with logins, passwords, IPs. Like, don't go there, all right? Just step back and ask them a counter question. They say, how do you install SQL Server on Windows? Ask back, do you mean production or non-production SQL Server? Is it going to be production environment or it's going to be lower environment? All right. It lets them know that you understand the question in depth, because one way is to install SQL Server in production, and another one if you are installing SQL Server somewhere in big data analytical department, right? Where totally different tools need to be checked when you install and configure them. For example, if it's analytics, you need to include integration services, reporting services, and so on. While for OLTP, for transactional protocols, right, for transaction database management, something like you would do for banking, you don't need integration services and reporting services, right? So in you asking them questions back shows them that you are more professional, actually, right? That you are getting to the core of the question. So create this dialogue with the interviewer. Then another suggestion would be all your answers must show that you are an easy person to work with. As I mentioned before, I cannot stress it more. It should show in your answer that you are a person that is easy to talk to, easy to work with, not conflicting, and you can commit to management decision. For instance, I'm a high-end database cloud engineer, and I know how to put applications and load balancers and database and storage and what kind of storage we need and how much provisioned input output that storage is supposed to have, right? And then management comes back to me and says, no, we gotta do it other way. All right, we need different type of storage. We don't need the networking load balancer or something else, right? Which contradicts your vision. You've got to show them that you will present your point of view again. You maybe even make a PowerPoint presentation, right? To show that your way is better, right? But if management still insists on doing it the other way, show them that you will agree or disagree, but commit to that decision, all right? Because you understand that management have better vision for what company needs, right? You are just an engineer. So they want to hear that even though you are disagree at times, you will still commit to a management or corporate decision, all right? If you start fighting with them, there is no good for anybody, right? It will show you that you are impossible to work with, even though your solution is better, right? Sometimes you don't see it from business point of view, and technically your solution is better, but it will involve some additional work on getting it approved on corporate level, right? If you work for a government company, they go through a very complex stages of approval for the project, for which service to use and how much money to spend and so on, right? So you don't see it all as a database engineer. So they want to hear that even though you disagree somewhere technically or personally, you will commit to management or company's decision. In any IT interview, technical or non-technical, always start your answer from big picture and go to a smaller details later. Do not go straight to small detail. All right, it's very hard to understand your answer if you are going straight to a small detail. All right, let's say a tiny tool or technique that you use to accomplish some kind of requirement, right? You go from a big picture. If they ask you, what's your experience in three-tier application design, right? Or they ask you, what is your experience in MySQL databases? Do not go to a tiny setting in MySQL and start explaining it. Say, I have this and this much experience in MySQL. MySQL is a database that is based on Linux server, right? As opposed to SQL Server on Windows, MySQL is on Linux. So you give them a big overview of hardware, of software, right? And then you go to smaller details from a bigger picture. Always visualize it big and then go to details. It will, by the way, help you to gauge interaction flow. When you give them big picture and they already start asking new question, that's good. They liked your big picture question and they don't need any more information, right? If they still listening intently, go to the smaller details, right? But if you start with smaller details and you got lost in these trivials, right, they cannot even stop you really, and they're just bored and they roll their eyes and look at each other like, when this guy is gonna stop talking, right? So start with short, big picture and see how they react, all right? Gauge their reaction. That is important. I hope you liked my little overview of Tell Me About Yourself question, and that explanation works for you. If you disagree with any bullet points or you had different experience with job market, please share it in the comments down below. I monitor these questions from time to time in comments and try to answer promptly. If it's not me, one of the engineers from the community will answer them for you so we can create a discussion, a dialogue, you see? All right, until next time, peace.